Let's get aggressive and try ride mode A. So I've been through this section twice already, and I've done it in ride mode C. In fact, all of my riding up through 800 and some miles on the bike so far have been ride mode C. 2 days of dirt riding. This is my third day of dirt riding. Yeah, it is definitely noticeable as far as the, I don't know, I wouldn't say a twitchy throttle, but you definitely have a little more oomph when you grab a handful of throttle. I am in, what gear am I in? This is super loose. I was in second. Fueling is good, it's just more snatchy, I guess you would say. Yeah, there's been a lot of bike traffic through here today as part of the Dirty Face Dual Sport event, so it's super loose now. I wouldn't say that it's twitchy or snatchy, it's just snappier. And I actually kind of think that I would like ride mode C a little bit better here. Because it's more controlled application of the throttle. But A it's not a bad application of throttle response or whatever. Just got to realize it's just a little bit more snappy, I guess. Yeah, that's definitely the right term. Snappy is an S-N-A-P-P-Y. If you were in situations where you had to hop over a log, you just blip the throttle and pull up on the bars and you could hop over it easier than, say, if you were in ride mode C. Second gear downhill, I'm pretty much going to be in second or first all the way down this. Yeah, even at that slow speed stuff, I could definitely tell a difference between A and C. I can envision this bike with the ride modes and the traction control modes. I wouldn't necessarily say a good beginner bike because of its height, but height notwithstanding, just ignore the factor of the height. This is a bike that if a person did want to get into a DR-Z4S as a newer rider, I wouldn't say brand new rider, but a newer rider, you could grow into this bike. It's something that you likely wouldn't outgrow. I mean, heck, look, I've had my 02 DR-Z since 2006, and it's still an awesome bike for what it is. So a lot of times people getting into riding, they will buy a smaller bike, which isn't a bad thing. In a lot of ways it's a good thing, because you can learn balance and application of throttle and riding different types of terrain. But if you're a higher or a taller rider, the DR-Z would be a decent bike as for somebody that's not totally new to riding. So I'm kind of losing my train of thought and bouncing all over the place in this conversation, but back to new riders getting in to a smaller bike to learn balance and all that stuff. Things like TW200 or CRF 300L or KLX 300. A lot of times people will eventually outgrow those bikes just because their riding skill advances to the level beyond what they want to do on those bikes. Whereas a DR-Z is something you could buy as a newer rider and grow into, like I was mentioning. You can start out on ride mode C, traction control 2, or gravel mode when you're in gravelly stuff like this. And then as you advance through learning technique and whatnot, then you could easily bump up to ride mode B. And then ride mode A. A is the most snappy throttle response. B is sort of more linear. And then C is kind of less than linear. So A would be more than linear, where it's kind of a curve, like upwards curve. B is a straight line, and C is a more of a downward curve. There is a sort of a bar graph that Suzuki has that shows the various throttle curves, I guess you would call it, for ride mode A, B, and C. Yeah, and even out here on the road, I can tell the difference in ride mode A compared to C. I can blip the throttle pretty good, and I will get what I would call intake noise. It's like brah, sort of throaty sound. Like right there. That's definitely a difference between B and A and C. There almost seems to be a little bit more engine braking in ride mode A, it seems. Yeah, definitely a throatier sound there. It actually is reminiscent of my old DR-Z. Yes, definitely a throatier sound there. Wow, this is like comparing A to C ride mode is like comparing my old DR-Z in ride mode C to my KTM with this in ride mode A. A guy at the last checkpoint I was talking to said, "Yo, that sharp turn, there was no ribbons." Well, there they are, and I remember hanging one here. This thing is like wicked on ride mode A. It's like comparing my old DR-Z to my KTM. You know, if I didn't need a single track bike, I would sell my KTM 450 EXCF, but that bike is so much more enjoyable to ride on single track than a DR-Z, because the single track that I ride is narrow, technical, challenging in a way. And I still have this passion about the single track, not so much for the fun factor of the ride itself, but the scenic aspect of it. Probably the worst single track ride I ever did, and I'll post a link down in the description below, was on my old DR-Z. It's probably been about 4 years ago, I think, where I crossed a river and went for a swim. And Andy, he's actually running the same helmet cam today that he was on that ride, and he captured the whole thing on video. The engine sucked in some water and waterlogged it. Didn't hurt the engine at all, which was amazing. It didn't get any water in the crankcase, but the cylinder filled up with water. And we spent about 3 hours trying to get the water out because somehow my spark plug wrench that was supposed to be in my toolkit in my backpack was not there. Yeah, it's a crazy sensation. I swear it has more engine braking in ride mode A. The other cool thing about the ride modes is it's just epic that you can switch these on the fly providing you've got the throttle closed. Same thing with traction control. You know, it really is like riding two completely different bikes. Ride mode C compared to ride mode A. Holy crap. Slow down. Okay, let's see if I can change these ride modes on the fly without looking. So I know that I'm in ride mode A. So I'm going to punch the mode button once, hit the down arrow twice, and yes, I did hit ride mode C. Then I hit the mode button again to shut off the ability to change the mode. So I'm just gonna be friggin' beeline to lunch. Oh yeah, it's more tame. Okay, so I'm in fifth gear doing about, or fourth gear doing about 34 to 40. Let's go mode, up, mode, yeah, whoops, up, mode, okay. Mode, ah. Oh yeah, it's totally different application of the throttle. Dang! I just went back to ride mode A. Huge difference in the application of the throttle. And I swear it has more engine braking. Fifth gear, 40 miles an hour. A, B, C, button, there we go. Yeah, let's go back to C. Yeah, it's a little bit too snappy in this gravel now that I've caught up to some slow riders. Let's go. Nope, I want to go down. What am I doing here?
That pretty much wraps up my ride comparison between ride mode A and ride mode C. I essentially accomplished what I wanted to, and that was to run a given section through that old fire brake in ride mode C, and then do the exact same ride in ride mode A. And then later on in this ride, I did switch back and forth between ride mode A and C a few times to kind of get a feel for how they compared back to back to each other, so that was pretty enlightening. Once I can get out and ride some more, I will do some more testing and comparing ride mode A to B and B to C and A to C and all of that good stuff, so stay tuned for those videos, and thanks for watching.